Hello, I'm Lauren Friedman, Senior Consumer Insights Analyst at Digital Commerce 360, and I'll be your moderator for today's 360 e-commerce chat, sponsored by Unboxed. Thanks for joining us. Our e-commerce chat program is an informal way to bring together industry experts to share insights and best practices in retail e-commerce. Today will be an interactive discussion that will include a Q&A at the end of the session. So welcome to our chat, Shopping Efficiencies, Shortening the Path to Purchase. And this is one I like because for me, everything about shopping should be about efficiency. I will be joined by four esteemed panelists. Ranjan Roy, VP of Strategy at Adore Me. Scott Perry, Executive Vice President, Digital Marketing at Jerome's. Krista Matthews, Chief Customer Officer at Overstock.com. And Tal Pellig, Global Director of Sales Engineering at Unboxed. So just a few housekeeping notes before we get going. We'll take questions at the end of the presentation, but you can ask them at any time using the chat box on the right side of your screen. You can also use that box to let us know of any technical difficulties you're having, and someone will help you out with that. So to kick things off, I thought I would share some highlights from Digital Commerce 360's 2021 Performance and Conversion Survey, and maybe some of you even filled it out, which is great. So one of the first questions was, what were your biggest e-commerce achievements during the 2020 holiday season? People had to select their top 5, and from a list of 15 that included top-line growth, greater profitability, and better customer service, only 35% said optimized customer experience. So my belief is that there's still work to be done. As a point of reference, that compares to the top answer where 61% said top line growth and increased revenue. So we got some work here. From a year-over-year perspective, how did the following online KPIs compare? And so it was a great year for KPIs. All of the KPIs that we looked at, from traffic to website revenue, conversion rate, profitability, marketplace revenue, AOV, all very strong in the upward direction. 75% saw their conversion rates climb, and 50% saw AOV up over the course of the year. I think the biggest challenge for retailers is going to be, how do we match these results in 2021? On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the optimal user experience, we asked people, what number would you assign to your current user experience, and what goal do you hope to achieve in 2021? So looking at folks who scored 8 to 10 on a 10-point scale, 37% gave themselves that grade, but 92% said they hope to achieve that same range in 2021. So as you can see, everyone has their work cut out for them. From a dollars and cents perspective, we asked, what level of investment relative to 2020 do you anticipate you'll make in the following areas? And I was glad to see that 69% said they will see investments up for the customer experience. That was second only to digital marketing at 76%. So when you come as close to marketing, you're in a good position. On a side note, web design at 53% can also contribute to a better and shortened shopping journey. So it's good that the retailers are looking at both aspects. How important will each of the following investments be when it comes to optimizing online conversion? And here what was interesting is that 64% ranked the customer experience #1 most critical for optimizing conversion. That was followed by digital marketing and customer service, again, which to me sort of fits into the customer experience realm. And lastly, how important have each of the following on-site tactics been when it comes to improving your online conversion rate? Retailers find many of these tactics very important to improving those rates. Key page upgrades were #1 at 59%, web design at 56%, and site search 50%, which is something you'll be hearing about today. So I hope this gives you a little bit of a frame of reference. And now I am going to, now that I've had a chance to share these findings, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves and their company, and to share one tactic that they have used to shorten the customer's path to purchase. Krista, we're going ladies first here.
Thank you so much, Lauren. My name is Krista Matthews. As Lauren mentioned, I'm the Chief Customer Officer for Overstock.com, which is the 5th largest online home goods retailer. Our focus on customers getting exactly what they want as quickly as they want was embodied in a bunch of different projects this year, but one of the biggest was mobile. In a year when people have been using their mobile experience more often because a phone can be handled while multitasking, making sure that customers can get exactly where they want to go without any interstitiary pages with as few clicks as possible is a huge priority for us, and our customers rewarded it by shopping on there the majority of the time.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, Scott, how about on your end?
First of all, I'm Scott Perry. I work for Jerome's Furniture. We're one of the largest retailers in California, specifically Southern California, since 1954, with 24 locations and growing. One of the big things that we did, one tactic that we did that kind of shortened this path was to better connect our online consumer with in-store sales staff. So one way that we did that is we used to have a live chat team that was kind of an isolated team in corporate office, and we did away with that, and we put a live chat system in place from a company called Podium. And what that did was that directly connected the online chat user with salespeople in the store. And not only were they connected right with the same person that they would maybe see in person later on that day or on the weekend, but that salesperson also has the ability with that chat system to start a video call and walk a customer around a showroom, and which was hugely helpful in COVID times when we had to shut our stores down to let customers shop virtually on their phones. So that was a big one.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually tested out a lot of these virtual appointments and virtual tools, and I was pretty blown away by how good most of them were, which is great to hear. Well, Ranjan, you are next up.
Yep, how you doing? I'm Ranjan Roy. I'm the VP of Strategy at Adore Me. Adore Me, we are a women's wear direct-to-consumer e-commerce company. We've been around since 2011, and our main categories are bras and lingerie. That's what we launched with. But we've since expanded to a number of other categories: swim, activewear, ready-to-wear like dresses, and all different types. So for us, a major initiative we had launched this year was actually a try-at-home service. And there's a couple of elements that really worked on shortening the path to purchase there. One, we introduced a style quiz. So actually now when a consumer signs up, we would collect a lot of data through kind of like a fun Tindery type quiz, and right off the bat, be able to better target them with specific items. And then the other, which I'd love to get into more, the actual kind of logistical and operational system of sending them a box to try at home and basically letting them get that in-store experience in the comfort of their own home. So it was something we've been working on for a while, but the pandemic definitely exacerbated and made it grow a lot faster.
Yes, we're all in that situation. It's interesting to see how so much revolves around connecting those channels, no matter what the circumstances are. Tal?
Yes, hi everybody, Tal Peleg. I lead the sales engineering for Unbox. We are a product discovery platform. We power search, browse, and product recommendations. Over 2020, we've actually spent a lot of time in our algorithms to see how we can make sure that that path gets a lot shorter. As an example, one of the things that we saw in 2020 was kind of the supply chain in the back end where products were running really low across our customers. So accordingly, we have tuned our algorithms to actually go ahead and give that in-store experience. What else do you show in case you don't have exactly what they need? What is the closest match in order to do that kind of conversion? And by all means, I'm looking forward for this panel today.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up because we've seen in a lot of our Digital Commerce 360 research the fact that in-stock status is one of the main keys for converting. And so, nothing like showing them something that you don't have. So speaking of converting, my first question I'm going to start with you, Scott, is which tactics delivered the best results over the holiday season from a conversion standpoint?
Some of it's going to piggyback off of your last comment, was really surfacing items that are in stock. One thing we were able to do was tweak our algorithm with Unboxed, who powers our site search and product recommendations, to surface everything in every category that's in stock first. So that was the heaviest weighted item. So if you're looking in the sofa section, the first couple of pages of things that you're looking at, we're surfacing what's in stock. And of course, that's also another weight would be, just the personalization. What colors are you clicking on? What price ranges are you clicking on? So we add the layer of personalization on top of that. But the first thing is kind of weighing that. And I would say, a couple things that we did, not only surfacing the in-stock items, but really having robust product recommendations, having kind of a shop the look experience for our customers that would let them kind of complete the room. And also really surfacing monthly payments. We found that financing was very important, especially during the COVID period. People were leveraging financing more and more. So being able to break down a living room set with a monthly payment, that's more digestible for consumers, and having financing options was really helpful.
And did you already have financing at the retail level, or was that something you didn't know altogether?
No, we did have financing at the retail level, but we made a decision to kind of lean into that as a conversion lever by expanding that from like a 24-month financing to a 5-year financing. So that makes that sofa purchase $20 a month, which is the price of a Starbucks run. So it kind of made that a little bit more affordable in a time where people just needed some extra financing.
Got it.
Yeah.
Ranjan, how about on you?
Way to listen to your customers. I'm just so impressed with the financing options.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Krista. Ranjan, how about on your end? What tactics, scored from a conversion standpoint?
Yep, so for Adore Me, as a primarily broad lingerie company, Valentine's Day is always a big time for us. And then especially, over the last year during the pandemic, as we primarily sell things you wear indoors, sales have been benefited from there. But so we were pretty interested in how to really kind of go after this holiday season. And so kind of diversifying our channels was a much bigger priority this year versus past years, where it's much more focused just on kind of traditional social platforms. So we went very heavily into TV, and even that presented new challenges because what is television versus how we book streaming TV, like platforms like Hulu. We actually put a lot into podcasts as well, streaming radio. So really trying to test all different channels, and we saw a lot of success and potential as kind of a traditional DTC company that was born in 2011. Facebook and social platforms are very, very in our wheelhouse, but going into these kind of hybrid channels, streaming TV, podcasts is very new, and we're very happy and excited that we think it can really present kind of a diversification on the channel side.
Interesting. So Krista, on your end, thinking about the evolution of the shopping experience and where it's headed, how have the expectations of the customers, because so much changed over the course of last year, how have the expectations of the customers changed post-pandemic, and what are you doing to address those changes?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that's why Scott's answer just resonated with me so much, because the situation of the customers themselves is an incredibly high focus for us. And so we did a ton of research about repeat rate and about what customers are willing to change their opinions on. And I can tell you that for April, they gave us a little slack on the supply chain stuff that Tal mentioned. And then by May, they wanted it in 2 days again. So the customer expectations have really returned to great selection that's easy to navigate, great pricing, and fast, easy post-purchase solutions. And so knowing that we've gotten right back to it, but that we have a bunch of customers whose situations have changed. We have had hundreds of thousands of customers who've never shopped online before. And so we didn't have the benefit of a physical location, but we had the benefit of being a solution for people who with stay-at-home orders. So helping our customers understand how to shop, how to navigate. In our case, we have over 4,000 suppliers with over 6 million items. So when we talked about in-stocks earlier, you better believe we found a way to say, if we don't have that brown couch, we have a different one. Here's what's different about it. And if you can't touch it, here's our return policy, so that you understand that if you're in our loyalty program, it's a free return. So helping customers navigate the online world became a huge priority for us. And luckily, the existing online shopper already expected the exact same things.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is the customer, like they cut you slack for 5 seconds. And I know even to my own situation, I recently ordered something that was a very unique item that could only a sewing issue. And it was came from Etsy, and it's like it dropped into the delivery abyss. And it's like I'm in a full-on panic every 10 minutes checking for this thing. And that's what happens, and that's how we've been educated. And maybe for the existing customer, it's not the case, but for the new customer, maybe they'll let you ride a little bit. So
And
speaking
to be
about
honest with you, I know that everyone's dealing with this supply chain traffic at the ports is a problem right now. The fact that FedEx and UPS are rightly prioritizing vaccines means that there's fewer trucks for actually shipping to customers and helping customers understand that without making it sound like an excuse. Because nobody wants you to say, well, the vaccine, because they're tired of talking about it. So instead saying we are prioritizing you as best we can and giving realistic expectations is our #1 priority.
Oh, that's interesting. If I had seen the vaccine thing, I wouldn't bother them. So anyway, so now speaking about saving time, so shoppers are all about saving time. And I'd love to hear from you, like Ranjan, let's start with you on this one. What have you put in place to make that happen? Like, how are you really saving people time?
Yep. So Elite are the name of our Try at Home service. And again, just a quick description: we send you a box 4, 6, or 8 items based on your preferences, and then you keep what you want, send the rest back. We had quietly launched this actually in 2017, very carefully and slowly, because the logistical challenges it presents, even the algorithmic challenges in getting the right items to the right people, are massive. So we've been slowly scaling it. Again, pandemic demand exploded because now shopping at home, now what was before seemed like a novelty, now becomes a necessity. But also, we do think this idea of predictive commerce is a big part of the future. And again, I can understand for us, sending like a swimsuit and bra and a couple other things in a box is a lot easier than sending 3 couches or 2 tables. So a bit of a different challenge there. But we strongly believe, again, this idea that in the future there's going to be some element of physical retail, potentially very experiential, but then there'd be a much larger percentage of boxes being sent at home, helping you on already knowing in some capacity what you want, and then basically letting you recreate that situation of shopping at home, that convenience of not having to go to the store. We think that that's going to be a major part of the e-commerce ecosystem, or commerce ecosystem overall.
Okay, and Scott, how about what are you doing to help people save time?
And I think part of it is just, aiding in product discovery. We did a lot of work around refining our navigation, connecting items to other pieces of furniture that are in that same collection, making the site super fast. Every page on our site loads in less than 1 second, actually like 900 milliseconds, making things speedy. We added things like product video. We have thousands of product videos. A product video is watched on our site every 60 seconds, and that aids that customer in really kind of understanding that without having to, go to a store if they can't go to a store. We added a lot more 3D models. So we have an augmented reality app. Customers can see what furniture looks like in their home. We have 360 product views. So really focusing around that. And then lastly, we added a free drop-off delivery service that was a no-touch service. We did that right away. So if your order met a low threshold for us, which is like $700 or $799, we'll drop the furniture off for you, usually within a few days. And it's a no-touch service. Drivers are wearing masks and gloves and booties on their feet. And that was well received by customers, getting it to them fast in a safe way.
So a combination of on-site and off, we're really working together.
Exactly, yes.
Krista, how about you on your side? I mean, what are you doing? I see you nodding your head a couple times there. So what are you guys doing?
I think Scott and I were in such a similar situation, and the machine learning has really made it easier to understand exactly what the customers need when. So the algorithms that he was talking about, just making sure that the customers can find what they want as quickly as possible without creeping them out. Because people don't want to know that you know exactly what they want, but they would like to have an option of having farmhouse be their primary style type that shows up when they search for a bar stool. And so knowing information about our customers from our CRM system helps make sure that they can get there as quickly as possible. But all the delivery stuff, the safety of it, the communication was a huge priority for this year.
I don't think you can over communicate delivery. It's impossible.
No, it is.
We do everything.
We sending like one email to like 5 text messages, and people are so much happier.
Oh yeah, we text people the night before, the day of. Then we text people when the delivery's on the way, and you can track it with a real-time map with a little truck on a map like Uber. And then they text you again when they have arrived at your house, so that you can end your Zoom meeting and go get your delivery.
And they
What
love
I
it.
need to do is
I love it.
have them text me when my neighbors has arrived, because that's in the urban areas, people are always sending it to the wrong house. So you're hearing from people in the neighborhood. We have another thing. So, Tal, let me turn this one over to you. In what way have you guys, as a company, helped your retailers evolve site search to deliver a more sophisticated shopping experience for their customers?
So I think the core is what was mentioned over here. From that perspective, it all starts and ends with the algorithms behind the system. And you are talking about there's a couple of layers to it. Certainly, the difference between search, which is the only way on the website that you can actually come in and explicitly say what you want, and you expect the system then to explicitly understand what you want and address it accordingly, as well as from a browse perspective or the category pages, kind of understand the context of where you are. Are you right now, well, I used to say outside in a baseball game, but I guess now it's either you're watching one show or another on TV from that perspective, depending on your level of engagement from that perspective, and certainly product recommendations. The things that we have done was from those algorithms, to be faster. It was also, of course, a function of the customer success and the communications that we had with our customers on how do you then go ahead and do those kind of activations. How do you build that journey from a personalization perspective? Obviously there's different models as we are talking between apparel and let's say furniture, for example. But if you are talking about apparel and you have a user that comes into the site for the first time, do you show him the top seller versus a repeat shopper that you want to show him the new products that are coming into play? From a furniture perspective, it's obviously about the fact that if somebody comes in, and we all kind of know it, right? People search for sofa. Are you looking for an outdoor sofa? Are you looking for an indoor sofa? Like, where are you in this journey? And those kind of capabilities of understanding. And then the ability of how to do those activation. And then there's a couple of inflection point of that perspective. Certainly the auto suggest, what do you expose? How do you make sure that from a merchandising perspective, as a business, you drive what you want them to see as they start hitting the keyboard, and then from those search results as well. It's one thing to go ahead and put a banner on a category page and say that you have a sale on a certain category. It's a completely different story for the search platform to understand via the million ways customers describe it, that you need to present that same banner in order to drive them into that. So from the R&D perspective, we've spent a lot of time of that, but just as much time, and as soon as the holidays came, once the freeze was, well, even before the freeze, of course, there was no testing, yada, 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 but the customer success engagement with our customers and training the merchant teams on how to use the platform to its fullest, considering the situation is where most of the work was done around this time in order to make sure that both our customers are trained and then they can deliver those kind of really good experience for their users.
Fantastic. Now that you kind of touched on personalization a little bit, and Ranjan, I'm going to tee this one to you. What initiatives are you prioritizing to evolve personalization? And I'm sure, relative to some of your products that you've already discussed, Elite, you will have many examples there.
Yep. So Elite and our Tried Home service has actually been a kind of blessing in disguise for the main core business as well, because it forced us pretty early on to start building our own internal personalization algorithms. and really leveraging our own now decade of data specific to our product categories. Because again, this idea of try at home, the holy grail is called the keep rate. If you send 8 items, what percentage are they keeping, is to make sure that moves up and up and up or stays at a certain level. So again, understanding exactly how to target that customer with a specific item becomes incredibly important. So then we can start to apply that to the website as a whole, start to try to better understand, again, customer journeys, which items to add as the recommended item. But I mean, to be honest, we've tested a million different ways, and still in the middle of the homepage is just top sellers, and it works. And we think we're creating some rocket science, fancy new way to shop. But then for all the testing we do, the top sellers still always wins and lives in the middle.
Well, having been a former merchant forever before this, there's certain things about retail that never change, and it's like new product. There's a reason why people buy it or they notice it. So, Krista, how about you on your end? How are you guys prioritizing personalization?
Yeah, there's a ton of ways, but first, Ranjan, I wanted to say the day in, day outs of the top sellers, communicating that to our partners and our vendors who were used to the store cycle of now it's cold, now it's warm, and saying, no, we need it year round, was actually one of the most interesting conversations that we had, because their supply chains were built so that patio started in April and it ended in August, and telling them incorrect. We sell it in December, we sell it nationwide, especially because people in the southern states look for stuff online that they don't think will be in stores. Top sellers, man. We needed to prove it to them, and it needed to be tested into. So yeah, personalization includes geography, right? We know that right now, Texas Texas is a little bit of an exception right now, but Florida is buying outdoor patio, and ensuring that the geographic locations we meet their needs, where the seasonality doesn't fit the total trend, so that the site looks relevant to everyone, requires that we have different iterations. So every email that you get from Overstock is actually personalized to you. The categories shown are personalized to all of the millions of people based off of what they've bought before. And so figuring out what actually matters to them. Machine learning algorithms written by people much smarter than me that take into account clicks, visits, linger times, searches from offsite, searches on site. That's all stuff that's got to be taken into account, along with removing, I'm a 10-year merchant, the arrogance sometimes of merchandising. We know what to do at all times. Taking that out of the equation and putting it into a machine learning algorithm has proven to be better for the customers and very humbling for myself.
I'm right there with you, Krista. We once did a bake-off like this. I won't even get into it, about whether the merchant could win over the algorithm, and the algorithm won. It's sort of depressing in a way. But anyway, Scott, so speaking of the algorithm, you're up on that one. So where do you see personalization, and how are you looking at it?
Well, we use personalization as much as possible. It definitely works. And we kind of had the same back and forth with merchandising, and I would get an email saying, why is this sofa in the top 3? And I'm like, well, it's in your top 3 because you've probably been looking at that sofa a lot, or the machine. I had to talk to my merchant, John, and say, look at your wife, Maggie, look at her, what shows up for her is different. And he's like, oh yeah, why? I have to explain that every once in a while. But we try to use personalization as much as possible. And one of the ways that we did that was we added Unboxed to our website early this year, and we did it as fast as possible too, because our old site search just was not good. I think we did it in like 3 weeks. I forget how, but we did it fast. We were in a hurry. We needed a solution, and part of that was, having a Slack channel, and we were going back and forth in the middle of the night. I mean, we really, rocked that thing out. The other thing that we have a tool called Shoptelligence, which is kind of a complete the look type tool, and it's really neat. So if you're looking at a blue sofa, and you click on the Style It button, it goes down and it shows you an ensemble, like a gray rug that matches and a cocktail table. And the way that, you know, computers and algorithms can match things that go together is phenomenal. You know, it really is super helpful, and it's also personalized. So it's learning, you know, how your, you know, what your on-site behaviors are. So we take it at another level, and we even take it into like how we advertise to people. You know, we've got segments of people that are living room shoppers, dining room shoppers. You know, we've got by style, and then, you know, all those audiences are up, you know, pushed into Google and YouTube. So on the Google Display Network, if we know you're a living room shopper, you're getting sofa ads. You know, so, and we try to take personalization to the extreme. It's obviously in our email systems. We're not yet really personalizing the home page to show, you know, products to you. We're adding that here soon. Luckily, being in Southern California, patio furniture is always in season. So we leaned into that heavy.
Just rub it in, Scott. Just rub it in. That's fine.
Yeah, don't be smug. It's 0 degrees here.
I'm looking forward to it being in season in Chicago, Scott. So we'll leave you on that note.
Right.
Hey, Ranjan, I'm curious from you, are you taking advantage of AI to deliver a more relevant shopping experience? And I'd like to hear if anyone else is as well. So start with you there.
Yep. And first of all, from my side, I have all the respect in the world because we just have to like rotate between pajamas and swimsuits was our only kind of seasonal unusual behavior last year. So the idea of actually just giant patio tables and versus large indoor wooden dining tables and managing that kind of supply chain disruption is like incredible.
Did pajamas skyrocket?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Active wear and pajamas skyrocketed. Swim, especially normally April and May is when swim explodes, and pajamas and indoor wear kind of decline. But exact opposite.
And not so much.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So we've definitely been using data science and machine learning, as Chris has mentioned as well, to improve personalization on site. And for us, it really is a question of like the behavioral side of who the user is versus the actual contextual side of what the products are. And again, this question, as Scott was saying, you know, what item looks good with what? That's one side of the equation, but then how does that look to a specific person based on their purchase history, based on whatever demographic data you have, trying to kind of like figure out the magical formula or the secret sauce in the middle there is where we think there's a lot of potential. Because again, we feel pretty comfortable. There's the basic stuff. This person bought X, so recommend them Y. I think everyone's probably there. Then there's this item would go well with this item. Everyone's kind of there as well. So then how do we kind of connect the two? That's really what we're looking for.
And Paul, what did you see on your end, you know, from an AI perspective? You know, what's the interest level that you're seeing on the part of the retailers that you work with?
Yeah. Well, everybody wants personalization. There's no doubt about it from that perspective. The wisdom is how do you apply it? And certainly we've seen kind of the spectrum, you know, the difference between brands and multiple retailers who then have to offer multiple offerings from that perspective as well. What we have seen is there's also levels of evolution from an operational perspective that needs to come into our customers. As into that point is how much can you merchandise? How well do you know the different audiences? Where do you want to segment? I mean, certainly, Krista mentioned the top ones from that perspective. Certainly, geography comes into place, new versus old users coming into the website. We've mentioned that conversation over here about the top sellers. So the idea behind this, as we saw in the different workloads, was search, you need to do it mildly. On the browse of the category pages, you may be a little bit more aggressive. And then for those recommendations, rather than just try to throw something up there, let's see if you can do fallback strategies and if you can A/B test those. And I will tell you this, Lauren, I mean, what we've seen from a couple of our customers is actually merchants won a few times over the algorithm from that perspective as well. Sometimes gut can take over the machine and win. So by all means, we promote that.
Oh, there's hope. So I guess, Speaking of merchants, my passion, so in the spirit of discovery, Krista, I'm going to, for you, let's keep these merchants together here. In the spirit of discovery, how are you merchandising to enhance the shopping experience from a discovery perspective? Yes, there's all the people who are following the search path, but there is a discovery piece to shopping also.
Absolutely. And so I'll give an example earlier about vanities, where if we know that you're in a bathroom purchaser, so Scott said earlier, living room, and then you give them a rug. If you are previously in bathroom and you search vanities, let's show you a bathroom vanity instead of a makeup vanity for the bedroom. And so discovery of things has to be aided by customer experience, where they've been, where they come through. But I mentioned earlier, we have over 4,000 partners, 6 million items. We have created a scorecard. So again, leveraging machine learning. I'm using it too much, but we use it a lot. Using machine learning, we looked at the category level to say what matters most to the customer. What information do they need? Where do they start? So with a rug, it starts with size, and then it starts with fabric type. And so knowing that, the search algorithm and the actual discovery pages puts other things at the top that align with the customer expectations. And we score each of our vendors who take pictures, and we say, this meets our quality standards or this doesn't. The long copy is enough information for our customers or it isn't. And then we watch a return rate and we say to ourselves, you know what? People thought that this was something it wasn't. We had a canopy that was actually only the canopy that got returned at about 60% because people didn't know what it was. And so identifying those items in real time, giving feedback, updating, and making sure that the customer-facing merchandising is correct is a huge priority for us that requires a ton of data processing.
Now, Ranjan, how about on your end? I mean, how are you guys merchandising, from a discovery standpoint?
Yep. So one thing that's really been kind of was in meetings this morning on it. We, over the last about 2 years, have been making a big push on the sustainability side. Again, especially in fashion and clothing, creating more sustainable clothing and materials is very important. So we have a bunch in the pipeline. We've already started quietly introducing lines, not making a big deal, but how do we introduce that to customers and how do they behave on the site? Because again, all site navigation is built kind of under traditional product categories that, again, a bra versus a corset versus pajamas versus a swimsuit. So now there's kind of this other dimension added to search where we have no understanding of how users shop, how they behave, what they're looking for. You've probably seen any number of studies that now the average consumer wants to be more sustainable in their shopping and more environmentally friendly, but what does that actually look like when they're on the website? Are they typing in the word sustainable? Via Google coming in via those kind of searches? So there's been plenty of debates about how we introduce this on the website. Where does it live? Where within specific product pages it lives? And I think this will be a challenge for every company that's slowly moving this direction, and especially companies that aren't traditionally as perfect as a Patagonia. You're going to start having, different levels of product. So how do you communicate what is a great product versus an average product? There's so many nuances and details in there that it makes for some healthy internal debate.
Yeah, but you got to realize Yvon Chouinard honed that over many, many years, and he was so ahead of his time. And my daughter's actually studying sustainability, so it's interesting to kind of monitor it and to watch it. And I think over the last year, really just within the last 6 months or to a year, it's really made a shift, a quick turn with the whole climate change, which is good. It needs to. Scott, hey, on your end, any examples of merchandising within the search experience that have performed well? I mean, you've touched on it a lot already today, but if you want to add anything from a discovery standpoint.
One thing that we've done that's good is kind of giving an artificial boost to new products. Sometimes a new product doesn't have its chance to really shake down how popular it could be or should be. So boosting that for a period of 4 to 6 weeks to kind of see, how that goes. Another thing is sometimes we'll get direction from merchandising to pin specific products, either because we want to get out of it, like we want to sell through these because there's something good coming in soon. That's something that's important, or give a little bit of a boost to products that have a higher profitability. Sometimes we do that. But all the other stuff we've kind of talked about a little bit. But the number one thing is just surfacing those in stock. I can't stress on that as much. Our industry is going through a massive supply chain disruption right now. I mean, it's hard to get furniture. Furniture is the new toilet paper. Everyone wants it. It's in demand. So surfacing that, is it's important. So.
That's why we all go, it always goes back to inventory at the end of the day. So, Tal, just to kind of wrap up this session before we move into the audience questions. So, what level of control do you think that the merchant is asking for you? And what level of control do you think they need to drive their business? So it's that balancing act between the merchant wanting control and the algorithm being in charge.
Absolutely. I think from a level of control, Scott said it well in a previous example. And why is this sofa in my top 3? So first and foremost is give those merchants the ability to understand what's happening by logging into the console and actually seeing why is the machine doing this. So what we've seen from that perspective is, and there's different layers of merchandising that we give in those hands. One of them is go ahead and impact the algorithm globally. The other one is, of course, more explicit use cases if you want to attack something. What we've seen from our customers, again, it's a kind of evolution. And I think that with Scott, it was a great example. We onboarded, as he mentioned, 21 days. They had SLI systems before. We took what we had in place, we introduced them to what's available, and then the pandemic hit all of us. And at that point, via customer success, we basically decided, okay, what needs to happen really quick? And well, luckily, everything that he mentioned was available in the console, and certainly that allows them to, the way that we look at it, we don't expect our customers to be living in our system. Quite contrary. We would like them to maybe log in 3 times a day, come in, get reports, maybe do a little bit of, set up an A/B test or a promotion. And then the 3rd time, because somebody calling in and asking them, why is this sofa in location number 3? But other than that, they should be doing their day-to-day. They've got enough on their plate without playing with those levels later on. And the console itself should show them the intelligence for them to feel confident on why they let the system run by itself.
And then I'm going to give Krista, the merchant, the last word on control.
It has been an incredibly difficult experience to give up my control. I think Tal, I agree with everything you said. The only thing that I would add is the merchants have foresight in a way that algorithms can't. So the example we just gave with patio, our merchants knew that patio would go up, and so they created a plan. And what we needed was an input into the algorithms to account for a step up that there was no way they could use history to anticipate. So in a year with COVID, they could have never known pajamas was going to explode on Adore Me. They could have never known that patio for Adirondack chairs would be the toilet paper of the summer. I loved that analogy, Scott. And so the merchant expertise of what's coming, finding a way to automate that data point is actually one of the biggest challenges we have today. How do you get qualitative knowledge into a data set that can be injected into an algorithm? We don't have a solution, so right now it's pretty manual, but we're hoping to find a more automated way of doing it soon.
I started out in the ski industry and we didn't have computers then. And we used to say we're like winter farmers. We're like, we just had to wait for something to happen and then we would react. And this is what it reminds me of. But anyway, let's move into the audience Q&A if we can. And Ranjan, I'm going to start with you because I feel like this one fits you. It's like, how do I build a brand of authenticity and content? Because you're in a category where you're not the only person selling this and you're not the only person with the personalized box that you're mailing to someone. How do you set yourself out from an authentic standpoint?
Yep, I mean, this is something we think about all the time, we act on all the time. For us, it's really interesting because we were actually the first brand to introduce inclusive sizing or plus sizing across all of our products in lingerie in 2013. But at the time, it wasn't really marketed. It wasn't a thing because in the industry, it wasn't this big conversation. It was just what our customers were demanding. We saw a big opportunity in the market. We filled it. Everyone was happy, and it's actually been, a driving force for us in our growth over the last decade. So really just being as responsive as possible to customers, opening up as many channels as you can. Because again, there's the brand marketing side, which I do a fair amount of work in, but it still lives in this separate place versus the customer care, the email marketing, even there's the social advertising, but the social posting, like how do you really interact with your customers to understand what they want, to respond to that? To me, that's still the most authentic thing you can do, especially because there's just so much noise right now, especially as we're all sitting at home and just online on some kind of social feed or something all day long. There's just so much noise that like making your customers feel just a bit of connection that you're trying to just solve some of their problems, I still think is, and as you said, some of the keys to retail are eternal and like do not change, whether traditional, whether digital. I think that's still the most important thing.
Yeah, and hard to do, easy to talk about and hard to execute. Hey, Scott, on your end, I thought maybe this one would be interesting for you. You're not a known entity outside of maybe California or your region. So how do you go about competing shoulder to shoulder, with an Overstock or with a, like a Wayfair, or completing, marketplaces online? How do you position yourself?
That's a good question. The way that we do it is we try to leverage our brick and mortar presence. We have highly trained salespeople that are design experts. They're bedding experts with mattresses. They know how to use a paired comparison, process to fit the right mattress to the right person. So I think it's coming at the customer with an expertise level. We have that advantage of you can touch and feel it. So we leverage that as heavy as possible. We do really try to drive as much traffic to our stores as possible. Although the omni-channel is big, we know that 95% of our customers have been on the website before they walk in the door. But that's kind of what we try to lean on, and we also try to lean on our curated style. I love Overstock and Wayfair and even Amazon, because the selection is like amazing. But we try to give kind of a guided choice. Here's the best designs out there in the world today, and we've curated this, furniture assortment for you. So I think just kind of leaning on that style and also the experience and that personal one-on-one. Some customers just want to see eye to eye. They want to go into that store and talk to that salesperson who's been a salesperson for 5, 6, 10 years, who really knows furniture and they have a good design eye. And customers sometimes need that help. Like I need that help. I don't have a good design eye. My wife does. She can match colors and things. For me, my house would look like a bachelor pad without her. I'd have disco balls and reds and weird colors. So I think that customers appreciate that expertise, and so we really lean on that.
Yeah, it's the old specialty store versus mass merchant on that side of things. So Krista, on your end, and we have this, I think could apply to anyone, what are some of the best digital marketing techniques that you would recommend to retailers? We've touched on this a little bit, Ranjan, you talked a little bit about it today. What are you seeing there, and how are you, especially for the younger audience?
We have about 20 different channels. Scott, I just loved everything about your answer, because that is the difference in helping customers understand it through the digital channels is ours, right? Like, how do we show a 20-year-old who's just graduated from college and they have their first apartment, how do we get them to understand what the side table would look like in their home? And helping them with that process is a lot of digital channels. So email marketing requires a different sort of customer. Over 50% of people who use email are over the age of 50. So moving to text messaging and making sure that which there's a lot of laws in California. You have to be very thoughtful about who you text and when, and people must choose it. So abiding by all digital channel rules is kind of a caveat, but ensuring that each channel has the appropriate click acquisition cost, that you're adjusting yourself so that you're not blind following it, because there's time periods when it's more expensive. Ranjan mentioned earlier Valentine's Day. I would bet his click for acquisition near Valentine's Day is probably the highest he has all year. So we've built models for each of our individual 20 channels in order to adapt and adjust, because humans can't watch that many. They can't watch the nuances of a penny changing, and making sure that you have an analytics team dedicated full time to that is the only way that we found that we can really be profitable while growing market share. I know that's not a sexy answer.
Yeah. Any other comments you guys want to add?
Yeah, I mean, for us, one thing I just kind of that we're thinking about right now is the introduction of iOS 14 and opt-in for Facebook. Again, for context, now every single user will have to opt in to Facebook tracking on the iPhone after the next update. So we're all anticipating that this is going to completely change the way Facebook advertising works, and which is a big reason why we've really been thinking about alternate channels, because again, the idea, we digital native rode the Facebook wave for the last decade. It's been great, but we understand that this idea that you can just live on one platform and continue to grow and continue to only work in that way won't necessarily be forever. So really trying to think about how to diversify, I think, is going to become even more important.
I would ditto that. We're experimenting with TikTok. We're leaning heavy on our own first-party customer data and segmentation to really target people, because that, the Facebook wave, it feels like it's getting a little shuffled. Like, I think it's still going to work. The visibility just goes away. So we either have to just have some blind faith, but we also need kind of a plan B or a mitigation plan to kind of cover the iOS 14 thing.
I think, at this point, we've got lots of other questions which we'll have to take offline, but I'd like to turn things over to Tal and, for the last word, but I just want to thank you guys. I think it's been a great panel and a lot of fun, and we knew it would be fun, and I wish you all the great success, and to please stay in touch. And Tal, you're on for the last word.
Can it be about texting and California laws and attaching a breathalyzer to the phone first, or?
No.
Oh, no.
I was still in control here.
Yeah, no, I've been hearing, this was obviously a great panel from that perspective. It's kind of interesting that our reality has turned into augmented reality, and how much we heard about it over here in the panels as well today. I think that we are seeing the evolutionary stage that is happening for here. This is obviously the first season where actually e-commerce, overthrows the stores and the brick and mortar and actually comes into play. And we're seeing that from the digital teams that are coming into play and the way that they are working with us as the vendors in order to achieve their goals along the way. And everything that we've talked about today, whether it is the personalization, the segmentations, the different activations that comes into play, it's all becoming much more advanced at a much more rapid pace. And it's interesting to see how the campaigning and the emotions that our customers are putting in front of their customers is turning into this much better user experience. And as we are looking and we're thinking about the numbers that you threw in the start, there's kind of a conflict that is happening. I do think that search will take more and more center stage across the board, and I think that Krista sees that in Overstock from that perspective. But certainly, you kind of need to come in and understand that at any point in time, if a customer comes in and says something, you need to listen. As they say, the customer is always right, and if not, go back to statement number 1 in case you think they're wrong. But from that perspective, so just as a last thought from that perspective, it's been a great webcast over here, and I hope that everybody had the same experience.
Yeah, and I welcome you, and I think it's interesting to see that the there's always the same discussion about the merchandising versus the search versus the algorithms. And the beauty of it is it can all coexist. And so that's the art and the science, and it's interesting. So
Absolutely.
again, I thank you guys. Any final parting words, Krista, Scott, Ranjan?
No,
Thank you so much for
Thank you
having
very
us.
much.
Thank you. Thanks everyone
very
so
much.
much. Really enjoyed it.
Take care, everybody.